In this video, we're going to have a look at cascading lists, lists which are dependent upon each other, but not using the parent property in the lists. Instead, we're going to set arguments, and we're going to use a different method for synchronizing these lists with each other. So our parent UX component has our parent list in it, which is a year of sales. So that's just got years in it. And then we've got this text field in here that we're going to fill in order to help us, but we're not going to do anything with that yet until we get to our sales type, and then we can get into our sales customer after that as well. So let's just have a look at what this does. So here we have our parent component, and here we have our two embedded components. You can see there's nothing in there at the current time. So we'll make a selection, and we'll see that our year type list is displayed now. It's our embedded component. And when I make a selection for type, you'll see that our customer sales list is now displayed because it now has the year from our parent component and the type from our type component, our type list. And you'll notice that the text box in the parent component was filled in when I made a selection from the type list and the type component. So everything's a synchronization there. And I changed to 2014, and you can see that it synchronizes as well. And if I go back to 2013, if there are no records, then the third list clears out. So let's have a look to see how we did this. So list year sales, let's start with that. Again, has parent list is not used in any of these. So we'll go to list events, and the on-click event, all it's doing is running the synchronize embedded UX method on both the sales type and the sales cust. And you'll see that if we jump into these embedded components, we've got a component alias of sales type here and a component alias of sales cust here. And that's what we're using. You have to use an explicitly set alias when you're dealing with synchronize embed UX. And because both of these depend upon values set in the parent, that's why we can use the synchronize method. So that's all that's going on there. And then so let's go to our second UX component, which contains the type list. And just pop in there. Here, if we go to our list properties, something similar. What we're doing here is on the click event, we're setting our current type to this.value. So we're just creating a var. I should say var. And then we're getting our pointing to our parent object, which is our parent UX containing the sales year list. So now we've got a parent object, and we're going to do a set value into our current type text box. And the value that we're going to set in there is our current type is this value. If we have a look at this, we don't really even need this. You can simplify this just by doing this. No sense in having extra code that we don't need. And once that's set, we're going to go ahead and we're going to run the synchronize embed UX against our third component. And that's what's going on in the on-click event. And now for arguments. So we're in our second UX component. Here we're setting an argument for a year and set at runtime, and I'm just putting a dummy value in there. Now if you want to test this, you could put in a real value that you could expect, so you can test the component on its own. But then once you're finished testing, because I want that component to start out empty, I'm going to set a dummy value in there. And that's all there is to that. And once again, a parent list is not being used. Okay, we'll save that. We'll get out, and we'll go to our third component now. Now here there are no on-click events in the list itself. There's nothing going on there. We'll go to list events. You'll see there's nothing there. But in our arguments, we have our year set once again to a runtime value of 9999, and we're setting another argument, another new argument that we created called argtype. We're going to set its value at another dummy value. And that's all there is to that. Now, back in our parent UX component, or main component, we're going to go to our second list, argument bindings. Now, this section for set argument values shows up only when your embedded object actually has arguments in it. So that's why you've got to go and set your arguments first in the embedded object. So since the embedded object has an argYear argument, now this section shows up in our parent UX component, and we can set this value. So this value is going to be set to the value coming out of our list control in the parent. And you can see that that's being set there, so that's good. You can see it even tells us what our default value is. Just great stuff coming through. We'll go to our third UX component. We'll go to its argument bindings. And you'll recall we set two arguments in our third component, one for argument year and one for argument type. So in this case, again, we set the value coming out of our parent component, out of our parent list rather. And for our type, our current type, we're going to point to the text box that we're setting with the value from our second UX component where we set the type. So we're going to pick up its value from there. And that's all that's going on. It doesn't get a lot more simple than that. So again, let's go and have another look at this. These are our first, second, and third UX components. These two are embedded inside, and this is our parent list inside the parent component. I'll make a selection here. And we'll get our values coming out there, and I'll make a selection here. You can see East was filled in, so now our third component is picking up East from here and the year from our parent list. And I can make selections here, and everything will synchronize. And I can change this. And once again, we're all synchronized. So that's it. I think that might be a fairly simple way to go about getting this done. Thanks for having a look.